Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this edition of the weekend wrap up here on this Easter weekend, Josh.
It is.
And this is the nicest weekend that we've had so far this year.
Oh, it's beautiful outside. So.
Yeah, 70s, getting up close to 80. Tomorrow's supposed to be nice. Now, next week could be another story, but 2 or 3 good weather days back to back.
It is. It's good afternoon. I think the kids in my neighborhood are having an Easter egg hunt this afternoon. It's about that time of year. So
they're going all over town right now.
There are. So, and couldn't beat the weather for it. So
but we got a action-packed show today.
Action-packed. Yes, I don't know if we're action-packed.
Hey, we got some video things to show.
We got some clips. We got some stuff to talk about.
So. Yeah. But before we do that, let's hear from our sponsor, Dennis Young Insurance. We'll be right back.
Yep.
With the personalized service you deserve at Dennis Young Insurance Agency.
As a local independent agency, we offer coverage from several different companies, including Erie. So whether it's auto, home, life, personal, or business, we can find the right coverage to meet your unique insurance needs. And with a rate lock advantage, your rates won't go up as long as you do not change drivers, autos, or addresses. Contact us at Dennis Young Insurance Agency, insuring Shelbyville and surrounding areas since 19.
I'd like to thank everybody for joining us this morning. I see you out there, Steve Jordan. A lot of times when you come on and make a post, I don't see it because it's on a different screen, Josh.
Right.
And I have to jump back and forth. So we're not ignoring you if we don't see you. But I saw Steve pop up in there. He's a regular. He comes in and checks us, make sure we're
he's keeping an eye on us.
Yeah,
making sure we're in line.
Yeah. So. But what all happened this week, Josh?
What all happened? This was not as busy a week as I've had. This was I had what I have there 3 or 4 meetings. So only one big meeting this week. But let's start off on the top. Monday morning was the city monthly pre-planning meeting. This is the meeting before the meeting where the department heads get together with the developers and talk about projects that are coming into the city. Honestly, we had no surprises, nothing big coming into the city, at least in the next month. So we're going to go so small that we're going to talk about the Ice House is relocating. That's the little bitty box.
I didn't know what that was.
You didn't even know what it was until I told you a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
That's the little 200 plus square foot building that used to sit in front of Charlie Wally, and it is moving down 231 North. It's actually been relocated for a couple months down in front of across the street from Feldhouse Funeral Home.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, even though it's a couple hundred square foot, that's going to go through planning. It has to meet design standards, all this stuff. It's got to be hooked up to utilities. Obviously, you can't make ice without water and power. So that went through pre-planning.
By the way, I will put a plug in.
Approved.
That's a pretty good little deal. It's self-service ice, and you get a lot for what you pay for it.
Yeah, it's a better deal than if you go to the gas station or the grocery store. Yeah, you get more ice for less money. It's real easy. You pull your car right up, put your money in, and out comes a big old bag of ice.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's a good deal. Should be up and running, I would say, in the next month or so now that it's going through the planning process. So they've been waiting on, believe it or not, they had to get a site plan and everything. It's expensive to move a little building across town. So other than that, on the agenda, they did discuss Preserve at Lexington Cove. That's the new subdivision coming in behind Piggly Wiggly off Union Street. There were 3 more rounds of preliminary plats and a revised construction plan. As far as I know, they've not actually done nothing's been constructed there yet. They're getting all their plats and everything approved on the front end before they go in and do the work. This was a phase of what they're calling cottages, which are just kind of those long, narrow shotgun houses. They approved
what?
Those long, narrow houses. You've seen them. There's a neighborhood of them just around the way here. The very first PUD.
Like the villas?
Like the villas.
Okay,
gotcha. That kind of thing. There's a round of townhomes that got approved in there, and then some single-family homes. So all that'll be coming at some point. It's going to be a little while, but they're working on it. Final plat got approved on the next building this is Park Place Townhomes. Those are the ones on Horse Mountain Road over behind the park. Those changed hands recently, and Old South is building the final round of those. So they got another building of that approved. Up by Cooper Steel, they bought a couple lots on Eagle Boulevard. They're just rezoning some of that and combining those together. That's all part of their expansion. And then one that'll be on planning next week, which we'll talk about that when we get to the upcoming week. But there's the parcel on 231 North coming into the city where they've done all the grading and put the grass and stuff there that they're trying to get it rezoned to C2 there across from where the bypass hits,
Right.
231 North. So that went through pre-planning with no notes or anything, and that should be up for a vote at the Planning Commission this next upcoming week. So that was it, though. On the city side, that was the only city meeting that happened this week. Nothing big. There was no surprise coffee shops, no surprise anything sneaking in.
Hey, I did see where we're getting a wing shop.
We are, yeah.
Touchdown Wings.
Wingstop.
Wingstop.
Yeah, Wingstop is coming in between the UPS store and Dose Bros there.
Yeah.
That actually, nobody had noticed it, but I think the city manager had announced it on the radio like 2 months ago.
Right.
So, yeah, we knew it was coming, but they've actually got a sign on the door now to tell you how to apply for jobs.
Everybody got
and stuff.
excited.
So, yeah, everybody was excited for wings. Personally, I'm not a big wings person, so it didn't do anything for me.
Didn't
But
make the list. Didn't even make the list. Didn't
no,
it?
but if you like wings, they're coming. So yeah, wings and coffee. We got chicken and coffee in town.
Chicken and coffee.
If you're good on chicken and coffee, we're the place to be. So Tuesday, the big meeting. This was the one that we talked about last weekend. This one we knew was coming up. This was the county committee meetings at the historic courthouse. They actually relocated these into the big room because they knew there was going to be a lot of discussion on a couple of these items, one in particular that we'll get to in a minute. First committee is Rules Committee, and right off the top, fairly early into that, we had quite a little bit of a debate. Lasted several minutes. It wasn't what a lot of people were there to see. I don't know how many people even paid a whole lot of attention, but this was about our budget committee.
Right.
This has been the last several months in Rules Committee. There's been at least a portion of the county commission that would like to see us institute a budget committee, and I believe 4 or 5 members. Honestly, I've lost track.
Five members.
5-member committee that would help oversee the budget every year. Currently in the county, we have the Financial Management Committee, which is a 7-member committee. They oversee everything in the world of finance. We're under the 1981 Act. As our illustrious county attorney said at the meeting, in that 81 Act, there is an option. In the way it reads, it's kind of an either or. You can either have the Financial Management Committee be the one that oversees the budget, or you can have this separate budget committee oversee the budget.
But one doesn't replace the other.
Doesn't necessarily replace. His reading is you can't. It seemed like, anyways, what he was getting at, he thought that you could only have one or the other actually be the one review the budget.
Right.
They're trying to do it as more of a combo deal, like a team effort. That he gave some pushback on that and felt like, at least in his legal opinion, maybe that wasn't a way that they could do that. Everything I've heard pushback wise has been more not that it's a bad idea. Like, man, we shouldn't have more oversight. I think it's hard to argue that more eyes looking at the budget is a bad idea. I mean, that just is common sense. The more people that you have involved, hopefully you can get a better outcome at the end.
Yeah.
But the pushback has been, we just passed a new set of bylaws. It's a lot of work to change them, which to me, a lot of work to change them isn't a reason not to try.
Yeah.
It does require a 2/3 vote to change the bylaws, so that may end up being the sticking point in why this doesn't go through. Now, the committee approved 3-2 to send this to the full commission, so there'll at least be a debate about this on the floor next month. Gut feeling for me, just being an outsider looking in, I don't think it's going to happen. For one thing, the budget process has already started. They're actually having budget hearings, which we'll talk about here in a bit, next week. This coming week, actually, on Tuesday is the budget hearings.
Yeah.
So to bring in a budget committee after the budget hearings have already been held is kind of a moot point at this point. So you're kind of looking at next year's budget for this discussion.
It's a little too late in the game.
A little too late in the game. They waited a little too long. The other point that was brought up by John T. was that they have the option already to replace the 4 members of that Financial Management Committee that are there.
On an annual basis.
On an annual basis. But what we found this most recent year, which there was some discussion of that at the time, is those are kind of handed out by seniority. And once you're in one of those spots, unless you offer to give it up, there's no real easy, clean way to get you out of that seat. They don't sit there and have a person-by-person vote on each seat every year.
Why do you think that is, Josh?
I think
I've got some theories.
I'm sure you have some theories. Give me a theory. What you got?
I just feel like that seems to be the most important. That has the most control, the money flow, how things are lined up, setting the budget. You're setting the whole course for your commission and your county government with the money, because without money, nothing happens. And I think that is one of those spots that it's the most powerful spot.
Of the 4 committees we have here in the county, that is the committee that I think anybody would look at and say they're the ones that call the most shots. That was the debate back months ago when they did the Juvenile Justice Center and stuff. Pretty much that committee can put anything up onto the floor and have it voted on. Now, any committee technically can do that, but what happens at a lot of these other committees, the ones other than the other night, but a lot of the times these go 10, 15, 20 minutes, and it's just a bunch of people reading off a report of what happened the previous month. There's not a lot of time, a lot of substantive debate at these other 3 committees, whereas at finance, they're looking at the numbers. Like you said, they're looking at the dollars. So a lot of things move through.
So, however, though, this meeting and the meeting before with our rules committee, a lot of stuff's been brought to the table.
Right. Yeah. Recently there has been some more important issues at these meetings, which is why we're digging a little deeper on this today. One other thing that came up, this actually happened at the end of this meeting. I just wanted to cover it here before we get into a couple of the more hot button issues. There was a very brief discussion on the IDB board pilot, the payment in lieu of taxes for Century Mold. I didn't get to see the paperwork. It wasn't in the packet they posted online, but from what I gathered from the discussion, the county commission is going to vote on a similar deal that the city council already, which I was on, which we already sent back to them as a proposal, which was just a 3-year payment in lieu of taxes on this particular deal.
Because there were no jobs included.
There were no jobs included, was the reason we had. There was really no discussion at this meeting about why they're doing it this way, other than I think they're kind of following in line with what the city council has already moved forward with. So we'll see if there's a bigger discussion on that at the next county commission meeting. There was almost no discussion at this meeting. It should also be in that packet. We'll be able to actually read the paperwork, and we may have more to say on it then. So now on to the big one. The reason everybody was at this meeting and the reason that it got moved into the big room, there was a resolution that would prohibit step systems in the county that was up for discussion, debate, could possibly have been sent on to the commission. Spoiler alert, it did not get sent on to the commission. My big point on this, I didn't really have a position on one side or the other of this argument. Definitely for me sitting on the city council, this isn't something that impacts us at all because we have sewer system. We don't deal with step systems at all. But the big thing that I got out of this was it sure was good to see the big turnout, the engagement, the people from the community that cared enough to come out to this meeting. Again, rules committee, this is not one that usually has a big turnout. If you had 2 or 3 people from the public, it's a crazy night at the rules committee. And we had a full room. There was, probably a little out of order, but there's clapping after different people gave speeches. I mean, it was a big event.
One thing about this resolution that people need to understand, this was not prohibiting step systems permanently. This was prohibiting step systems until the state of Tennessee came out with more stringent regulations to control failure of step systems. That's why it was written.
That was the wording. Now, the argument that came in from, I believe it was the lady from the Middle Tennessee Association of Realtors, said that it appears that the state is never going to go this direction of actually regulating them correctly. And honestly, even the guy from TDEC that came and did the study session said he'd been pushing for, what do you say, back to like 2017, and he was getting no traction because
a strong lobby.
There's a strong lobby group that's pushing against it.
Yes,
so,
I get people not wanting regulations.
Yeah,
I mean that is a conservative approach. There's some of these things are necessary, and TDEC evidently thinks it's necessary to go up a notch or 2 on their requirements. We found out a lot of information in this meeting that we didn't know.
Right. Yeah, a lot came out. Let's start with clip 1 because we got several clips today, and let's hear from our friend Mr. Gary Cooper, and this was his take on why maybe we didn't need this resolution and what could be done instead. So let's play clip 1.
You got to have an inspector. In steel business, you have to have an inspector, and in house building, you have to have an inspector. and they make sure things are running correctly. And in this, it's all about the inspection. If we have 50%, I'm sure, were poorly inspected. And yes, they're going to fail. And 50% of them probably were inspected correctly, and they're going to pass. So I don't think you can say 50% failure and pass record is because of the step system. I think it's because of the inspection.
His point there is well taken, because if you just put a step system in place and never check it out, it's going to fail.
Right. Yeah, that was one of many, and we could have clipped 5, 6. I mean, there was a ton of speakers at this event, and they all had good points, which got to the point that maybe just a blanket eliminating of step systems was not the best path forward, but maybe some form of county regulation on these on top of the state regulations, which everybody agrees are not strong enough, might be the direction we need to take. Now, you and I have talked extensively about this. The whole issue of the step system is kind of just a straw man for the bigger issue, which is, do we want big subdivisions out in the county? What
High
density? What do we want out in our county as far as housing, number of houses per acre, that type of thing? This is just one piece of that bigger puzzle. Now, our friend Bill Anderson, who brought this particular resolution, he's always been big on the 1 acre per home that perks.
Right.
And he always says that's law. And I want to clarify exactly what that means and how that fits into our zoning. 1 acre per home is A1 zoning. That's A1, which is our base zoning for the entire county. That's
right.
Also our agricultural zoning. That's where most of the county sits right now. We do have in our county zoning, we have R1, R2, R3, and PUD. There's 2 different levels of PUD. I think it's a 1 and a 2 density. All of those allow higher density than 1 acre per house. So although under A1, he's correct, 1 acre per house that perks, there's other zonings out there that are available for developers, and we
But you
need
got
to
to have sewer. You got to have that.
You have to have some kind of
Some-
wastewater
yeah.
system, and that's what gets in with the step system, or as was brought up by some people that have moved in from other states, which it was good to get other perspectives. Step is not the only solution out there. There are other wastewater systems out there that aren't a step system, some of which may even be better than a step system that we haven't even begun to look into yet. So there's a lot more discussion that needs to happen. Again, what I'll come back to is it was good to see this meeting with this number of people out, this much engagement from the community, conversation, rather than just
Well,
the same old politicians sitting in a room
Exactly.
and making decisions for the people
kudos to
without
Bill
talking.
Anderson for
Yeah.
bringing this, because it got the discussion going.
The discussion got going. So.
And now the solution might be hashed out in a public format rather than in behind the door somewhere else, and
Right.
nobody hears it.
Yeah.
Nobody knows what's going on.
Yeah.
And that's our issue, I think, that's been plaguing Bedford County for a long time.
Right. Which brings us to, we're going to listen to clip 2, and this is going to be back-to-back, 2 different 15, 20-second clips of 2 different people from the county talking about the 2 hot button issues we're going to talk about today. See if you
So
can...
much conversation, so many things have been said about this stuff. And the ironic part of it is the genesis of this whole wastewater authority. You can blame it on me. The genesis of this thing came from me. Okay. And so why didn't anybody ask me about that? Why didn't anybody ask me about the wastewater authority? Why didn't anybody ask me about any of this stuff?
Mr. Max, I'm not aware that you contacted my office or asked me anything about it. I was aware, though. You did contact my office and ask me?
No, I have not.
Oh, no, I
I'm
didn't think
listening
you
to
did.
what you're
Yeah,
saying.
okay, I got you. So, but I was aware that you were looking around and talking to other people about it, but I thought it was interesting that you never came to the mayor regarding that. But it's a little bit interesting that there could have been a lot more information shared with you besides grandstanding.
Boy, all that stuff is rich right there, Josh.
There was a theme there. I don't know. I got cut off, I think, a little bit. We started the clip early, but if you didn't follow what I was saying before, there's a theme between those 2 statements there, and similar statements have been made in previous meetings on different issues at the county. And the theme is, we had more information. Why didn't you just ask? Well, I would say if you've got more information that needs to be public, why didn't you just tell it? We have at the county a full-time position that the majority of their work is media relations and putting out information in social media, on their website, through the news media. If there's more information than the public needs, go ahead and share it on the front end.
There's
the
a
public
problem.
shouldn't need to
Yeah.
reach in and pull teeth to get all the information that's needed in this. All this should be out in the open early on, and that helps. That would help a lot of this back and forth
All right.
that goes on.
These are both in committee meetings. Okay.
Yeah, these are both
This
committee
is where
meetings.
a commissioner might communicate with the administration side of things
Yeah.
and find out stuff. So to be offended because a question's asked is preposterous and a bit condescending, in my opinion. I mean, both of these, we've got the information. Okay. There's questions being asked. Why
Put
don't
it-
we stand up and
Put the
communicate?
information out there. So,
Communicate.
yeah, put it out there. And which the second part of that clip got us into the other big hot button issue that was on the agenda Tuesday night, which was the TAC and radios. We had a month ago, the previous meeting of the safety committee, we had Commissioner Maddox raise the question at the meeting, why are we not making more progress on the TAC and
Right.
radios? I'll be honest, I was at that meeting that he asked the question, and it got a little uncomfortable in the room. There were some people that gasped at some of the things that
I
went
know.
back and forth
I
between
know.
the mayor and the commissioner.
And it was a legitimate question.
But sometimes we get a little too complacent and kind of coasting along and apathetic and whatever other word you want to use. And we need to get shook up a little bit and moved out of our comfort zone. And that's how things get done. So,
Well, obviously, this kicked in a gear. All of a sudden, this project got a transmission installed.
it did, or at least the discussion happened. We got it
Right.
moving. We got it. It got out into the public. We received a report at the meeting on Tuesday night. This came directly from Motorola, who sent three what I would say are pretty heavy hitters from Motorola. Their state program director, their state of Tennessee sales manager, and then their local sales manager to explain to everybody what is going on with attacking radios, why it has taken so long. They accepted full responsibility for the problems. They have had several people lost their jobs as a result of what's gone on here. But I can tell you with almost 100% certainty, we would not have received this report this week directly from Motorola had the previous uncomfortable situation not happened
Exactly.
the month before.
There's some
So-
people that want to say that this was already in motion and this was happening. Okay, you can think that it's just a coincidence that something got done when Mr. Maddox started asking questions, or you can think that maybe this started the ball rolling. Okay, I tend to think that it was the latter, not the first. It's not just coincidence because we've been sitting around for 18 months waiting for an update. I've asked for updates and nobody knows anything. Okay.
Right.
All right. Now all of a sudden we get information and a world of it after Mr. Maddox makes his uncomfortable moment happen because we've got information and we're keeping it a secret and taxpayers are paying for this stuff. It don't need to be a secret. Just like the other clip, the other part of the clip where Mr. White has his information, but everybody's asking the questions, but you got to ask.
Yeah.
Oh, really? If I've got the answer to this and I've got a solution to the problem, why would I hoard that back and not just say, hey, here's the solution to the problem?
Yeah, put the information out there. So let's
right.
go ahead and listen to clip 3. Let's get the actual update on the radios, and then we'll talk about the timeline.
I do want to at least state for Motorola Solutions, we are a mission critical public safety company. And I am embarrassed to be standing in front of you today. And I do want to be able to acknowledge specifically to the mayor that Motorola did fail to complete their integration in a timely fashion. That has been corrected. The mayor has been very gracious over the past year and a half or so, as are his agencies that we've had to be able to work with. So he has been very open with Motorola. He's been very frustrated with Motorola. And I just want to say that I do own that. So for that, I do apologize. Initially, when it was sold, Bedford County was going to be one of the first ones actually connected into TACAN. You guys have had counties around you all connecting, and you guys were still sitting out there. And it's embarrassing. There's nothing else. It was poorly run. There's no excuses on that. Again, I've had to have the same conversations with Motorola.
Here's where we're at, Josh.
Here's where we're at. So where we're at is, we'll actually go to the back part, which she didn't cover, which is the portable and mobile radio installs. They're, it looks like about halfway into both of those. And according to them, 30 days to finish installing all the radios. So that would put us by next month's meeting of the safety committee. We should be able to ask the question, where are we at with the radios? And if the report they gave us is correct, they'll all be installed. On the towers, they've got they have what was phase one, which was the initial order, and then they have added some change orders in phase two. On phase one, they're giving a number of 99% on most of their tower sites. One of them, Hawthorne Hills, at 95%. And they've got a couple items that they're saying are going to be completed in June. And then on Hawthorne Hills, they've got some stuff they're saying by the end of April. So if I'm reading the report correctly, and based on also what she said at the meeting, by the end of June, all of phase one should be done. So which just gets us to phase two, and it's got some July and August dates. So I would say if everything goes according to what they're telling us, at this point, the actual answer to the question, which was asked last month, where are we at with the TACAN radios? There's nothing that on here that they're saying is not going to be done by mid-August is the latest date. So it should all be up and running. And now there may be some programming and some training and whatnot that happens. But this summer, we should have all of our county first responders should be on the new digital radios. Couple just quick side notes. I don't get too far off into the weeds. We had one gentleman that got a little bit upset. We posted part of that clip, a different version of that clip on Facebook earlier in the week. And he was like, oh, you cut up what she said and made it sound a different way and this and that. These are, her presentation was 20 minutes long. No,
Nobody's gonna sit
unfortunately,
there.
in our current time and age, I could have posted all 20 minutes and nobody would have watched more than the first 45 seconds.
Right.
So I very intentionally, we've done this for a little while. You and I have been doing this over a year now, actually doing the show. I was looking that up earlier this week. We started this April of last year. About 60 to 90 seconds is about all you're going to get out of somebody on a video on Facebook, other than, unless we're doing a long form show like this. So we cut down and picked out, the most important parts of what she said that got the point across and got it out there so people could hear what she said without having to watch all 20 minutes. Now, you may disagree with what I thought were the most important parts of what she said, but Facebook's a free platform. You're welcome to put out your own 60-second clip. But I can tell you, if you put on the evening news, they take about a 10 to 15 second sound bite, and that's all you get of what the president or the senator or whatever said. And often people tell them, oh, you're taking it out of context. So we try to give it a little bit of context, but we do know the sweet spot is about 60 to 90 seconds. That's all you can get out there. If you read the write-up that went with it, it was very clear that she was accepting responsibility for Motorola. We weren't blaming anybody for the whole situation. Swinging all the way back around, the big part of the issue is there's two, you can look at it two ways, which David's already said. You can look at it, the issue was raised and they were already working at it and we didn't help any. It's still getting done the same amount of time. Or the second viewpoint is the issue is raised, you lit more of a fire under them, we're getting it done a little quicker. Either way, the thing you can argue is the issue is raised and we get a much more thorough report than we did last month.
Exactly.
So there's more information out there. Whether or not it happens a month or two faster or not, you could argue that point, but you can't argue that more people now know what's going on with the TACAN
Asking
radios.
questions is a fundamental part of communication.
Yeah.
And that's what's taking place. Asking questions here. Okay. If anybody gets offended by that, that's sad.
Yeah.
I mean, it's we just got to move forward. I mean, let's communicate better and we won't have so many questions.
Right. Yeah. Put the information out there on the front end and you want to have the questions on the back end. So.
And there'll be something else come up. Okay.
There will be.
There's always going to be something, but I'm glad to see that firefighters have an end date in place, possibly August, that they're not going to have to use their cell phones to communicate anymore.
Right. Yeah.
I like it.
It looks like, barring, whatever, some kind of more technical, but I bet between now and August, every time we have this meeting, hopefully we're going to get a more thorough update on exactly where we're at every month.
Right.
So, which we probably should have been getting a few months before we've started.
Maybe
Getting
even
it, so.
a year or two ago.
Possibly. That was it for that meeting that I'm going to cover anyways. There was a courthouse and property meeting after that. They're not a big item. There were 2 pieces of property that are in the county's name. Nobody was even really sure how the county got a hold of these 2 pieces of property. One of them was landlocked and has very little value unless you were one of the neighboring parcels. The other one was a piece of property in Bell Buckle that they weren't sure how they got a hold of. But anyways, people have reached out. They want to possibly buy them. The way that would happen is the county would put them up for surplus and accept sealed bids. So it would be an open bid process to buy those 2 pieces. Neither of them were very large or seemed to have a whole lot of value, I don't think. So,
Yeah.
but that was really all that went on at that committee that's even worth talking about that I can remember. Thursday was my big new one that I've been on for this is the second one I've been to, the Railroad Authority meeting. So this is our
Sounds important, Josh.
very important Bedford Railroad Authority, which I'm now a member of. We discussed what's going on the railroad in Bedford County. In Q1 of 2024, January through March, we had 264 train car loads of material travel down our railroad, which our railroad is not very long. It's a few miles long. So
But that just seems so low, Josh. I was eating at the Bell Buckle Cafe the other night, and there were 2 trains that came by, and I believe there were more than 264 car loads on
Well,
those 2 trains.
okay,
So
yeah.
what? How does this calculate?
Yeah, let's very specifically get into what this is. So this is
If
What?
you're in Bell Buckle, you
Okay.
might want to know this.
Yeah, so this is the Walking Horse Railroad run by Iron Horse Resources.
I got you.
They also use the name CSR. This is not CSX,
All
the
right.
big boy. CSX is their
So
whole
this is more
separate
regional.
entity. This is a very small regional. They've got 3 active customers right now: Gold River Feed, Revolution, and Ferris Processing, the
All
metal
right.
processor.
That explains.
So that's all this is. That's all that the county and city have control over. So in the first quarter, 264, they're looking at, and I won't give any details because this would probably be privileged, but they're in consultation with possibly bringing on a new customer, which could possibly even double their volume.
Okay.
So they're looking at another business here in town that could use rail access and would be a good thing. What they are doing this year coming up is they're starting a $590,000 track rehabilitation project. And how that is going to affect the public in particular is Highway 64 going into Wartrace.
Yeah.
They've got to rehab that crossing. What that's going to mean is Highway 64 at the crossing will end up being closed down for a couple days. So they're attempting to do that during the summer months when school is not in, because obviously it's going to create a bit of a traffic problem for people in Wartrace there for a few days. But that is coming up. There will obviously be announcements from the county, probably also from the town of Wartrace when that happens.
Yeah.
It's several months down the road, but just so people know it's going to happen. As far as in the city of Shelbyville, we've got a section of tracks that have not been used. It's about 3 miles, goes back towards Tyson, and then on the east side over towards another stuff over Bethany Lane and stuff towards Railroad Avenue.
Right.
That section of tracks has been unused for a number of years,
Yeah.
I think. So the city and the Railroad Authority have been looking at the possibility of turning that into a walking trail. So this has happened all over the country. These are called rails to trails. You take an old abandoned railroad track that's not getting any use right now, you turn it into a walking trail. So our parks director is overseeing this for the city. He's looking at the possibility. It's extremely, I hate to use the word extreme, it's very expensive to do that. He was talking maybe $1.5 million a mile. So
Wow.
to convert it to a path. So the only way this could happen would be through grants from the state, which they have grants to do this because this is a big thing. It's happened, like I said, all over the country. So that's just something that the city will be looking at some point. That's something that the Railroad Authority is looking at because they currently have no use. Now, part of that deal is it has to remain, the contract is if for some reason 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road, somebody over by Tyson decides that they need rail service and they're willing to pay the price to get the railroad in that section refurbished
Tear
back
it
to
up and
railroad,
rebuild.
then the trail would turn back to rails. So it still remains in ultimately in control of the railroad authority, but the city would take over the maintenance and it would turn into more of a walking trail for a number of years. And nobody seems to know a scenario where anybody over by Tyson is going to want rail service ever again. But that's just something that could happen.
Yeah.
So that'll all be part of the discussion. As far as the city actually taking it over, the city doesn't have to take it over and immediately turn it into trails. They could just take it over and leave it in its current condition, and then over a number of years convert parts of it into trail or park or whatever. So last meeting, which I didn't get to go to this meeting, but I did watch it online. It was very short for some reason this month, was our monthly school board meeting. This is Bedford County School Board.
Yeah.
They discussed, the biggest discussion they had, again, from what I could see in the video, was one you and I have been talking about a lot lately, which is attendance numbers. There continues to not be a growth in attendance in public school right now in Bedford County. They were, I believe the number they gave out for this month was 50, they were within 15 students, I think, of where they were at this time last year.
Behind or?
I think they were behind, actually, 15 students. So, and looking at the upcoming year, which they've started to get enrollment numbers and stuff, they were talking like 200 down. But they said kindergarten registration was up almost a whole month earlier than it normally is. They had it early in April this year, whereas next year it will be in May.
Right.
So there's still a chance that that number could get a whole lot smaller because a lot more kids could still register for kindergarten because they had it so early.
Right.
That's just something we've been keeping an eye on. They're keeping an eye on it too. It's just unusual that we continue to have population growth that nobody says.
Do we? Now, I mean, honestly, if this is an indicator, an early indicator, that maybe we don't.
But the other indicators we've been watching, which is the utility numbers and stuff, they're still hooking up more.
How many are they unhooking?
Well, they're always showing a net number, and the net number is
gain.
still growing. Yeah, they're still showing a net gain. Now, one thing they did talk about is the number of kids registered under an umbrella school or a homeschool organization has grown by several hundred this year.
There you go.
So that
That's
could be your kids. I think they said, I want to say, and I hate to quote numbers that I didn't write down, but I'm fairly certain I heard them throw out the number 1,000 kids registered under some kind of an umbrella homeschool organization in the county.
Okay, that number is probably going to continue to grow.
Yeah, and that was up from by several hundred from the year before. So that could be what
that's where we're at.
Could just be a change in how people are educating their kids.
Yep.
So for the upcoming year, this is not going to have any impact because of what happened with the voucher program. Their funding is going up next year regardless. They could have dropped several hundred kids. Their funding would still be going up.
And all the teachers are getting a bonus.
They're all getting a $2,000 bonus. All the ones that were a full-time teacher. There's a number of criteria there. You had to actually be a teacher. It wasn't for, support staff, and you had to be full-time at certain days, certain number of hours.
If there's anything good that came out of that bill, it's that right there.
That teachers
are getting a bonus. The other stuff,
it's a whole other. That's a whole other discussion. That's a whole other discussion. But other than that, that was all the meetings this week that happened. Now next week, I've got a crazy schedule, which we'll talk about in a minute. But before we do, could we hear from Mr.
Yes,
Dennis
and I'd like to also thank Mr. Leverett from Leverett's Power Washing. Jeremy, it's good to have you in there this morning. He's coming on board as a sponsor. He has been in the past. I'll just say I witnessed firsthand some of his work, and he does fantastic work. So a shout out to Leverett's Power Washing. We'll have him full force as a sponsor for a few months going forward here.
That's great.
So, Jeremy, it's good to have you. And, of course, it's also good that we've got Dennis Young and Dennis Young Insurance. And we're going to pause, hear a word from him, come back. You're going to review next week for us.
Absolutely.
Get the results you want with the personalized service you deserve at Dennis Young Insurance Agency.
As a local independent agency, we offer coverage from several different companies, including Erie. So whether it's auto, home, life, personal, or business, we can find the right coverage to meet your unique insurance needs. And with a Rate Lock Advantage, your rates won't go up as long as you do not change drivers, autos, or addresses. Contact us at Dennis Young Insurance Agency, insuring Shelbyville and surrounding areas since 19...
Again, we want to thank our fine sponsors here on Shelbyville Now, and we can wrap up. It's Tyler Leverett.
Oh, well, thank you.
I know a Jeremy too.
Oh, well,
Tyler.
there you go.
All right. What's coming on? Give us a preview of what's up this week.
Upcoming week, we have so much meeting time going on. I'm not sure I can go to all of it, but I'm going to make an attempt. Tuesday is the big day for me and in the meeting schedule, which is this is the county budget hearings. These happen every year. There are two of them. There's one for nonprofits and one for departments. And I have previously not made it to one of these. Last year's the notification was so tiny in the corner of the newspaper that honestly I missed it. And the year before I had a scheduling conflict. But this Tuesday, 10 o'clock and 1 o'clock over where the normal finance meeting is held over there on Dover Street, they will be having the county budget hearings. And then the exact same day, just a few hours later, 4:15 is the monthly county finance meeting. So I'll definitely be at that one. And then go forward 3 hours, and it's the County Planning Commission at 7 o'clock on Tuesday. So I could just sit in meetings if I wanted to all day long Tuesday, but I do actually have a job that pays,
Yes, you
so
do.
I might have to work. But interesting note on the Planning Commission, they're going to have some discussion of the RV issue again. That is back on their agenda since it got pushed back from the County Commission. So they could be discussing that. And there's been a lot of things in county planning that are kind of hot buttons right now. So I wouldn't mind going to that meeting, and I may make an attempt to get out to that. And then speaking of planning, Thursday, this one I've got to be at because I'm on it, is the City Planning Commission, 6 o'clock. We've got several items on there up for a definite vote, which will be the Walmart distribution center expansion. The MTSU flight school is on there. There is on the agenda currently sitting is the return of the developer for Remington Farms, the PUD.
Now this is a question.
Yeah.
You said the Walmart distribution center.
Yes.
What do you? Because they're already hauling rock and they're started construction. Is this
they haven't
different?
done anything vertically yet. Everything they've done is grading,
site planning.
Yeah,
getting the site ready.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, they've just been site prep. So yeah,
if y'all turn it down, they've got a bunch of rock to do something with.
Yeah. Well, no. Yeah, we won't be turning it down. I hate to give a preview. But
okay.
I can't see
it's coming forward. Yeah.
Now, there actually was discussion of that, which is that grading that happened, which has been extensive, and there's been a lot of back and forth about what's happened to the roads. That was allowed to be approved administratively by our current way things are done in city planning. I think going forward, that's not going to happen anymore. I think a project of that size, even the grading portion of it, is now going to come in front of the Planning Commission just because of what went on with this one as far as the roads and the trucks and all discussion.
Yeah, there's been some accidents and stuff. People have been talking about it.
There's been a lot that's gone on with this one. And you're right, this is the first time that the Planning Commission will vote on this. And we're already well into the project. But nothing vertical has happened yet. They've not built anything. They've just been working on the grading. And then the MTSU one's a big one. What I was saying on Remington Farms was they were on the agenda. We'd push them back 90 days. I've not seen anything final or official yet, but I'm hearing that there's going to be another request to defer. I don't think it's ready yet to be voted on. I won't know that for sure, probably until the day before the day of.
Okay, on the MTSU aerospace flight training school, blah, 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 that I thought that had already been approved.
Not at the planning level, it is not. No, they just have submitted the site plan. They've not done any. If you've been over there, there's no dirt work even happening on that site where it's actually going. And I'll tell you,
I thought on the front end of that when basically we said, yeah, come on, we've signed a lease agreement.
Right, it's
with
their
them.
Property. Yeah,
right.
As far as they have the
so
lease on
none of the buildings were approved at that point.
The buildings, no, we've not seen a site plan. So I've seen it now. They've submitted a traffic study. I'll just give you a quick preview on that, which is they're going to generate enough traffic that there's going to be a new red light going in there on 231 in front of the flight school. It's a big enough facility that they need a traffic light there. I've even seen the phasing. The initial phase is just instruction space and hangar space, obviously, and repair space for airplanes. But going forward, the plan is, if this goes well, which hopefully it should, phase 3 includes student housing on site. So this will be a big thing when it's all said and done. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Dormitories.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess. I mean, it just says student housing on the drawing, but that will be dormitories. So yeah.
Wow.
So this is going to be a big deal when it's all said and done. But phase 1 of it will be what we're going to be voting on Thursday night.
All right. Very good.
Yeah. And other than that, I think that's enough because that's sure enough for me on my schedule. I know what I'm going to do Tuesday. I'm going to do what I can, and that's all I can do.
That's
So,
right. That's right.
Yeah, I wish they would stream those. Just a side note, I wish they would stream those budget hearings. In the past, those have not been on their YouTube. I don't know if they're going to do that any differently this year. I've not heard one way or the other.
Maybe so.
It would be
That's-
nice if they put those
Oh
on
yeah,
YouTube for
that's
the public.
public money,
Yeah.
taxpayer money being
Yeah,
spent. It
yeah,
should
it'd be
be.
great for those to be
Yeah.
live. So,
All right. Well, Josh, great work again as usual.
well, thank you, sir.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Everybody,
Have a
Just-
good Easter
yeah,
weekend. Get
good
out to
Easter
church
weekend.
tomorrow morning.
yep, for sure. And we'll be back again